Welcome to From the Principal's Desk, a podcast for Lutheran school administrators by Lutheran school administrators. My name is Rob Lunak, and I'm the principal at Mount Calvary Lutheran School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And my co-host is Mike Sheeman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Sheeman. I'm principal at Bethany Lutheran School in Parma, Ohio. And I think we've got a really good topic for everybody today because it's very timely as when we're recording this, we're about a month and a half into the school year. And you look a little bit further and what do we see on the horizon? But parent-teacher conferences. It's that time. And I know our school here is talking actively about those and planning for them. So we thought it might be fun to have a conversation around the whys, what, who's, when's, and where's of parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah, I think parent-teacher conferences are really everybody's favorite way to spend an evening in October or November. I know I, as a teacher, looked at them and I kind of had a heavy sigh and I went, ugh. Because some of those you know what you're getting into ahead of time. At least you should. Nothing in there should be a surprise for everybody. But I kept thinking about, why are we having this meeting? Is it informational? Is it relational? Is it just a good face-to-face touch point? And I've always approached conferences not as, hey, here's new information, but as, here's information you already know, right? And then now me asking as a teacher, what is information I now need to know so we can get your kid to where they want to be? Because it should never be, hey, here's your grade. That's it. There's nothing we can do about it now. We're going to move on. Because I think that is something that a report card could do. You don't need a face-to-face conversation to say, here's your grade and it's not changing. A piece of paper can do that. What are some of the purposes you've always approached conferences with?
Well, when you said informational or relational or what have you, it's kind of a yes, all of the above. I think that I've done that before actually as a teacher. I still vividly remember thinking to myself, I've got a scenario with a student. Well, I'll definitely bring this up at parent-teacher conferences, which were like 2 or 3 weeks away. And I thought that'll be a great time to talk to the parents and collaborate with them. But in the meantime, the situation spiraled, things changed and it got worse. And I did bring it up at the parent-teacher conference. And the one comment was, why didn't we talk about this earlier? And I've never forgotten that because the relationship aspect with the parents is we really are in a partnership with them. And so as partners, we need to constantly be in communication. And so while the parent-teacher conference really provides a specific framework with that intentional purpose, it's something that we really need to be looking at every day to say, how do we need to connect with our parents? And like you said, inform them on a regular basis of what's going on and not get to that point of, now we can't do anything about it. It's just been happening now.
Yeah, everyone's got a phone. We have email. You can see parents before or after school. They can check the online gradebook. There's really no reason not to communicate with parents about some of those things that need to happen. If it's a problem, if it's an issue, if it's a concern, you should really be reaching out. And I know there's always that hesitation, that fear of, well, maybe this conversation won't go well, maybe if I just put it off. But the vast majority of the time, parents are really thankful that you're bringing things to their attention early, right? They want their kid to succeed. They want their kid to be a good student, and they want their kid to be doing well in your classroom. And if that means that the kid's not doing their homework or the kid isn't following directions like they should be, and you have that conversation with parents early, they can fix that early, and they will, right? We have good parents. The vast majority of your parents want, well, I won't even say the vast majority, all of your parents want their children to be doing well in your class.
They do. And I always had two main questions that I would use to assess whether or not I should be reaching out to a parent. And those questions were, if I have to ask myself, should I be reaching out to the parent? The answer is a hard yes. Absolutely err on the side of over communicating. But the other is, if this was my own kid in this situation in the school, would I, as a parent, want to know what's going on? And I mean, in some cases, it's I would just trust the teachers to handle it. But in other cases, it's like, yeah, I would want to know that. And I'll tell parents that too. And I'll tell them that's my metric. And they said, typically my response is, I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me know. So really the parent-teacher conference is one leg of a multi-legged stool when it comes to relationships, because it's another opportunity for you to check in. And structurally, during conference times, I also like to ask the parents things like, is there anything going on at home that I should be aware of that might help me as an educator with your child? Or is there anything your child is going through right now that you might find helpful to share with me? And those questions, whew, they sometimes garner some responses where it's like, wow, I am not equipped to handle this one, but I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways to kind of run parent teacher conferences. You can have the traditional teacher sets up a table in the front of the room, parents sit here, teacher sits here. Hey, here's your report card. You kind of slide it across the desk, and here's your kids' grades. There are student-led conferences. There are some that are just tell me more about your kid. You already know their grades. We can kind of skip that. You've seen that information. Just tell me information about them, and I'll tell you information about the class. And I've been various places where we've done it in various ways. Mike, can you explain some of the formats you've seen?
Yeah, so I think I've seen a lot of those common ones. I think it's important even to consider the setting and how you're doing it. Sitting across the desk almost creates an authority feel, whereas I would always dig out a round table. I mean, I feel it's just more of a very welcoming feel. Um, but yeah, we've done the parent teacher conferences where it's the info dump to a degree, which is never a great way to do those. But sometimes that can be a necessary part of a larger conversation. But we've also done at schools where I've served, we've done student-led conferences, which are exciting. There's a lot of great resources out there that teachers can find on how to prepare students for a student-led conference. What are the things that the students can share? We've also done things where at the beginning of the year, we use materials for goal setting, especially in our middle school students. Um, they set up what do they want to see happen throughout the year? What are the goals that they're going to achieve? And so we would do that in the fall. The report card would actually have those goals on it. They were personalized report cards. And then come springtime, it's a matter of how did we do with those goals? So all of that says really that the student needs to be at the center of all it is that we do. So even if it is a formal parent teacher and you're talking about the kid, teachers need to wrestle with should the kid be in the room, should the kid not be in the room. But if we can keep it student centric, I think we can answer a lot of those questions based on the context where people serve.
Yeah, I really love that lens that it's about the kid, right? It's not about you as a teacher, it's not about them as parents, it's about that student. You are meeting there in partnership to make sure that student's doing well. And I really like that personalized report card idea because I think for a lot of our parents, when we ask them, what goals do you have for your kid in school? They'll say, well, I want them to get good grades. I want them to have fun at school. And I want to make sure that they're a place where they're safe and loved, right? And those are all great goals, but in an academic context, those are all kind of nebulous. And so to say, okay, I want to do this, 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 and this specifics, and then put those in our report card, that's a great idea. So how often do you guys generally meet for conferences? I've been places where they've done once a year. I've been places where they've done twice a year. I've done places where they've done one before school even starts and then two throughout the year. What do you guys do there?
Well, right now we're at a one a year where I currently serve. I think that's a good question to have of what is the frequency? How important is the frequency? How important are the conferences? Because time is really important to people, and so we want to make sure that we're using their time well. But sometimes we can get away with doing one a year, and other times we may need more. What about where you're serving, Rob? What do you guys do?
Where I'm serving currently, we actually have three a year. We have one before school starts, where we go over, think of a home visit, but it's at school instead of in somebody's house. And then we do one after first semester and or one after first quarter, and then we do another one after second quarter. And we've actually moved that second one. It used to be at the end of third quarter. And so we moved it a whole quarter earlier because if we have to have conversations about maybe your kid's going to be retained, I want to have those as early as we can instead of getting to third quarter and being like, hey, there's nothing you kid can really do now. We have three quarters of this. So that gives us a little more time to work with parents, which I like. That's been that's been a new change for us, but that'll be a good change for us. Now, do you guys require conferences? Do you guys make sure, oh, do you tell parents, hey, you all must attend?
We do it as a very strongly encouraged. I don't think we're using the language of it's a requirement for various reasons, but we certainly highlight it and state why it is that these are important. And typically, the school where I serve now, the history shows the parents are going to show up. I will tell you a story where I was serving at a school, and what we would do, of course, Thursday and Friday were off days off school. It was parent teacher conferences, and the families thought, oh, hey, I've got a 4-day weekend. We can go to Disneyland with the families. And then they would come back after their trip and then say to the teachers, we missed conferences. Can we now book another conference? And so at that school, as a staff, we collectively decided that we were only going to hold conferences on those 2 days. So if families made the choice to leave and not make the conference a priority, we would not reschedule with them, even if they requested it. We got a little bit of pushback, and the only way we would schedule a conference is if the teacher initiated it. So if the parent said, we're gone to Disneyland, we're coming back, can I have a conference next Tuesday? The answer was no. And we all did that together as a staff, which really sent the message that we value this time with our families, even though it rubbed them the wrong way, but they learned pretty quick that this is not just a 4-day weekend where we can blow it off. This is a time where we're focusing on our kids and doing these conferences. So that was one conversation that I wasn't sure how it was going to go when we implemented, but it ended up being a really positive thing.
I've been places where they've kind of withheld the report card. Hey, you show up to conferences, you'll get your kid's report card. But now in 2022, that doesn't work anymore. They can look online and see their kids' grades. And if your school doesn't have that system, you should. Yeah,
Yep.
get into 2022 with the rest of us. But what are some other non-negotiables you have when you approach conferences as an administrator? What are the things you tell your teachers? Hey, I want you to cover this. I always tell my teachers, I want you to start with prayer. Pray specifically for that student and that parent, right? Start there. That is something that it feels weird having to require that, but making sure that everyone knows that that's a focus. Sometimes we go, I have a really packed conference, I'm just going to skip that, right? And I only have my 15 minutes. But if we make sure we start there, generally the tone of the conference is set a little nicer that way.
Yeah, it really is. And I think we do the same thing. Prayer is non-negotiable. We faith integrate everything, including parent-teacher conferences. I also feel it's helpful for teachers to, ahead of the conference, anticipate them and start gathering samples of student work. I think for the students that are struggling, but also for the students that are doing well or even excelling, to be able to celebrate the work that they have with the parents. Some of the teachers, again, I've talked briefly about the environment that they're in, but to make sure that it's a comforting environment, their classrooms are clean and presentable. I ask them to have eyes about that for the school and make sure that we're welcoming people. It's like you're welcoming people into your home. And this is where parents are sending their kids for 6 hours a day. Their most valued treasure is coming here, and they're trusting us. So we need to make sure, we need to show them and highlight for them that we're taking care of them. So that's pretty important as well. I will say, I also look at it with the eyes of, during that time, how can I, as the administrator, take care of the teachers? Because those are stressful, strenuous days. It may be not stressful in the interactions, but you've got so many of them back to back to back. They can be exhausting. So I always make sure we use Sign Up Genius to have our parents sign up for parent-teacher conferences. I create those and I block off certain times in the day where nobody's doing conferences, so we can just let our guard down a little bit. I always bring in dinner for the teachers. We make sure that they're fed well. Coffee machine is stocked up. Everything happens so that the teachers can also be comfortable. So what about you? How do you approach that environment?
Yeah, as principal, your role in conferences is not no role, right?
Correct.
You need to be
Absolutely.
taking care of the teachers, making sure things run smoothly. And I will always ask my teachers, hey, if you have one that you think is going to be contentious, let me know. And if you want me in there, I'll be in there. If you just want me around your room, just in case, just listening and maybe just pop in, I can do that. I've been at places where the conferences are 15 minutes long and it's a tight 15. And you get that one parent that just wants to keep going. And so I'll pop in and be like, hey guys, we're at 15 minutes. Sorry to break you guys up, but we got somebody waiting. And as a principal, if I can do that, parents are a little more accepting of it than the teacher. They feel like the teacher's kind of brushing them off if they go, oh, I got somebody waiting at the door, right? So just being around, being present, helping manage that time, and then taking care of the teachers, like Mike said, providing meals, snacks. It's a stressful time. And just walking around, and if somebody has a break, check in on them, see how they're doing, ask how the first couple have went, and being visible is really helpful.
It really is. And I think one of the things that I've experienced too is that in being visible, you will have the parent that says, oh, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I want to talk to you about this teacher, or I want to talk about something I don't like in the classroom. And my question right off the hop with that parent is, have you had a chance to address this with the teacher? I know some teachers feel on eggshells during parent teacher conferences because they know the parents are coming and they know the principal's accessible. And so I always like to do whatever I can to build up the teachers ahead of time. You're going to do great. Things are going to go well. And assure them that if anybody brings something to me that is about you, I'm not going to address it. I'll be pushing them your way. And then I tell them I'll give them the heads up, but I certainly won't do it in between conferences. Hey, they have a 15-minute break. Let me go tell them about the parent that just complained about them. So I make sure I save that for a time after parent teacher conferences if I need to talk to a staff member.
Yeah, that whole concept, that idea laid out in Matthew 18, if you're at a school where the majority of your families are unchurched, that is sometimes foreign to some of them. And they'll say, well, I'm talking to you. Why should I talk to the teacher? You're their boss. And I said, I understand that. But really, I want you to address concerns with them first. I'll hear you out, but I'm still going to say you need to go talk to them. Unless it's something that is illegal, something that's unethical, immoral, dangerous, bad for children. Those are my big five. If it's not one of those, I want you to talk to that teacher and check with them first, because that's what we're called to do. No one likes when somebody kind of gives them the runaround and goes above them with a complaint when it could be really easily addressed. I'll give you an example of that. I had a parent come to me like, well, the teacher's been telling all the kids to open all the door handles with their shirts. And I went, oh, that sounds kind of odd. Have you talked to the teacher about it? Well, no, but don't you think that's weird? I said, I wasn't in the classroom. I don't know. Why don't you check with the teacher and let me know? She had told them that after she washes her hands in a public bathroom, she doesn't touch the door handle to leave the bathroom. She uses a paper towel. If she doesn't have that, she uses her shirt. Totally reasonable thing. And that parent just did not know. Like, just check with them. And 90% of the time when a parent comes to you with stuff like that, it is very easily resolved between them and the teacher. So that's really good advice.
Yeah, I feel that parent teacher conferences really can create stress in the hearts of many teachers. And so I think it's important to continually remind the teachers that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so even if you feel that joy has been drained, you don't have anything left in you, God's got it for you. And he provides it in spades, and that joy gives you strength. Um, every family that comes in, look at them with the eyes of, God has called me to serve this family and to serve this child. And they may have been the biggest thorn in your side. They may be speaking poorly of you around. You might know about that or might not know about that. But if we can flood this with grace, remembering that what an invitation that these people are coming, and God chose you to love on these people, to love on these families, and to love on these kids. I think the mindset parents have going into or the mindset teachers have going into a parent teacher conference is critical, because we are the ones called to these positions. Parents are going to come from all walks of life, all experiences. They're going to have had crazy days and walk into a parent teacher conference, and you to them are Jesus with skin on.
But I think that's a great thing. We could go into the mechanics of conferences and the minutia and more helpful tips and tricks, but that is really the crux of it, right? We have the opportunity to minister to these families, and their focus is their kid and our focus is their kid. And if we can show them that there's a God that loves their kid, and that's why we're doing this work that we're doing, right? You're not in teaching for the money. You're not in teaching because you like all the kids all the time. You're in it because it's a calling, right? You've been called to it. And I think with that as the focus, as long as you run everything through that lens, your conferences are going to be successful.
Absolutely. And you, like Rob said earlier, you start with prayer, and then even before they get to the room, pray already for how that conference is going to go privately. Pray for that student, sit in that student's desk, get in their perspective, get in their space, lift them up in prayer, pray with them, and then of course after the conference continually have that partnership in prayer, and let the parents know that you're doing that. So a conference, yes, it may be a 15-minute slot that they signed up for in Sign Up Genius. But the reality is you are in conference mode all the time with your families, through the homework that you send, the communication that you send out, through the ways that you interact with them. There are always opportunities to be building up these families and building up these kids. So I encourage people to use this as, yes, it's a checkpoint. Yes, it's a marker, but it is not the be all end all. Constantly love your families with the love of Jesus.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to leave it. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any helpful tips or tricks for conferences or any questions, feel free to reach out to Mike and I. We're always happy to help. and have a good rest of your week. And for those of you having conferences soon, which I'm pretty sure is most of us, blessings on those.